Hey everyone, welcome to the Piney podcast, the second episode. My name is Tony D, and this little bugger is Joan. I've now done 3 takes of this podcast because Joan was in the first one and then ran away in the second one. I couldn't get her back to be in camera, but now you're on camera, so now you can go. All right, so we're talking about Wawa, the origins of everybody's favorite store. Wawa is the best. Can't beat it. Love it. Why do we love Wawa? Well, there's so many reasons. If you're a coffee nut, they have many flavors of coffee, and they always seem to have it available, and it always seems to be cheap. Now, I'm not a coffee guy. I don't drink coffee, but they do have iced tea, and the iced tea's okay. I prefer the bottled stuff now that they have the pure leaf, but, you know, you get an okay iced tea at Wawa. They have the little lemon packets. I would prefer fresh lemon, but I understand why they don't put that there. I'm sure if I really complained, I'd probably get some fresh lemon in the back if they had it. Relax, Jim, relax. But you might say, why am I talking about Wawa? This is the Piney podcast. This is about South Jersey. It's not about a company in Pennsylvania. Ha-ha! The origin of the Wawa super chain has its origins in South Jersey. Where, you might ask? Well, it has its origins. I'm going to put Joan down. She's anxious. It has its origins in Millville, believe it or not. The Wood family, who owned Wawa, started Wawa, they came out of Millville. This goes all the way back to prior to the Revolutionary War. Early to mid 1700s, Millville was basically one mill and a river trickling by. The Wood family, along with a few other families, came in. They dammed up the river to get a better flow of water and built other mills. The Wood family had an iron furnace. Some of the other guys had different mills or similar mills. And I believe there was a glass industry there. So this is prior to the Revolutionary War. And of course, they most likely supported the Revolutionary War with their iron and glass making for whatever the war effort needed. Most of the war during the revolutionary times in New Jersey was fought further north. South Jersey was mainly woods. Wasn't a whole lot of reason for the British to invade down here, although they did do that. They did come through and try to burn down some of the villages that supplied the war effort. So they went after one of the bog iron towns. There's a park near Weymouth. I forget the name of it, but it has an old furnace and, just a chimney from the furnace and water running through it. But it also has the root cellars left of the village houses that were there that the workers lived in, and the British came through and burned it down. So a little history there that you can still see in New Jersey. Revolutionary War era history. But anyway, getting back to Millville, the Wood family eventually, after the war, sometime in the early to mid 1800s, they sold their stake in what was Union Lake. That was the lake that was formed when they dammed the river. And they bought a farm out in Chester, a bunch of acres, I think like 24,000, something like that. And they started a dairy farm. And that dairy farm eventually was called Wawa Dairy. And they started to supply milk in the area. They started to supply it to Philadelphia and South Jersey region. And the thing that separated Wawa's milk from everybody else's at the time, this is pre-pasteurization. So the Wood family had brought in people to do quality control on the milk. So they had a higher level of quality because, it was a danger to drink it is a danger to drink raw milk, especially if you're very young or very old. But they had a quality control inspectors who checked the cows and the milk and tested things, and it made their milk very popular. They also marketed that way. So Wawa expanded, and eventually, people got to a point where they didn't have their milk delivered anymore, right? With pasteurization, people could get milk at the supermarket, So Wawa opened their first Wawa convenience store in 1964 in Folsom, Pennsylvania, right in the suburbs of Philly there. It wasn't long after that they opened one in South Jersey near me. I was in Lindenwold, where I grew up, and I'm not sure when that one came in. I dimly am aware of it, probably around the third grade, which would have been for me like 74. So it was the old Wawas were basically the size of a rancher house. And this is pre-sandwiches. I don't think they made sandwiches when they first opened. They definitely didn't have gas pumps, and they had a tiny little parking lot. And for me, all I remember about it is I bought candy and soda and tastykakes there. They had other stuff like milk and bread, because the concept, in case you don't know, of a convenience store originally was there wasn't a million supermarkets around like there are now. So when, like, in the 70s, early 70s, when my mother would go to the supermarket, it was kind of a big trip. Like, we had to get in a car and drive a few towns over to where the supermarket was, because there wasn't a supermarket in our town. The convenience store allowed her to get the things she needed just to get through the week, so she didn't have to schlep all the way to the supermarket, go inside, wait in line just to get, say, a gallon of milk or a loaf of bread, right? So the idea was, at that time, you only go to the supermarket twice a month, maybe once a week if you got a big family and you're burning through stuff. But you could go to Wawa anytime you ran out of something, that was that they carried, like milk, bread, soda, whatever. If you needed ice, I think they had an ice machine back in the day. They sell ice now, but it's inside the store. So that was the deal with Wawa. And then by the 80s, Wawas were all over South Jersey, but the thing was, they were so friggin' popular with the sandwiches in the morning and the coffee, like, you couldn't get in to the Wawa parking lot in the 80s. I mean, in the morning, forget it. It was a nightmare. People would actually have to park across the street because it was so bad getting in and out of there, just because so many people wanted to get a breakfast sandwich and a coffee before they left. And it was better than, most places. I think this was pre-Sizzlies. They have the Sizzlies now where it's all wrapped up, ready to go. I think before that, they actually made the sandwiches to order. And, so people would be waiting in line forever. I mean, the place would be mobbed. Then you had my favorite era of Wawa, when they had the ATMs, the free ATMs. Oh, it was awesome. I used to go to the ATM all the time in Wawa. It was great. And then they stopped that, and I was very, very sad, and I wish they would come back with it. But, then they moved on to Super Wawas with the gas, and, of course, they got the touch screen, which is awesome. They've always had an amazing selection of tastykakes, and I'm a tastykake aficionado, as you can see by my tastykake body. Tastykakes, that you can't get in most places somehow end up at Wawa, like the weird, obscure flavors. I don't know why. Maybe they got some secret deal with Tastykake that they'll vet stuff or try stuff in some of their stores. So whenever I can't find a flavor of Tastykake or a seasonal flavor that I need, I hit the Wawa and go there, and usually it's there. So that's the great thing about a Wawa store. So that is the secret origin of Wawa, the store that you thought maybe was a Pennsylvania store, but really, it's a South Jersey store. That's it for the Piney Podcast. My name is Tony D. You can check me out on Patreon, the Web Comic Factory for my comics, and Super Frat. I will see you next time, Pineys.